piece of breaking news.
Better be better.
Aditi Kinkhabwala is now with us.
Such better news.
Awesome.
Good.
Such better news.
You
What's up,
embarrassed
Aditi?
yourself with that first bit of news.
You redeemed yourself, McNuggets.
Aditi, are you
Breaking
still
news on
trembling
some
from that
schmo?
first piece of breaking news we just heard?
Aditi,
You know what's funny is Mikey said new breaking news, and I picked up my phone to be like, oh my gosh, what did I miss?
some schmo on the practice squad. What does anybody even know what position this guy plays?
No.
Do you have any-
Linebacker.
anybody heard of him?
Great
Oh.
hair.
No, okay. Now we've got him. Now we've got
Aditi,
Carol.
No, but
it's
at least
game
Mikey's
week.
on top
Are you
of it.
ready? Are you ready?
I am. I am ready.
She just doesn't share your enthusiasm.
Not matching
No, I
Bull's
was
energy
saying-
today.
No. I was listening to what you were saying, and I was thinking about the fact that the Panthers did indeed go ahead and just sign a veteran defensive lineman that they hope can play both end and tackle, someone that they'd seen during the Patriots, the joint practices with the Patriots. But it's an interesting idea to go after a young pass rusher.
Yes.
And the magic, I think, of the way the Browns run the ball is that there really isn't a weak spot, though. You know, like I really do think that they can run any which way.
I do, but we are nervous because I don't. It sounds like Jack Conklin's not going to play. That's our assumption is that he won't play this week. So we are nervous about right tackle. But I feel like if you have I was saying, I don't know if you heard this part of Aditi, but I was saying that because the guy who fills in at right tackle will either be the young guy James Hudson or a guy from Pittsburgh, Chris Hubbard, who's a great guy and a real smart guy, and he's a veteran savvy player. He's not a great player, but I'd go with him. And if I run at Brian Burns, I don't need Hubbard to hold up as long, right? Because if I'm going right at him, I just need Hubbard to hold up for a shorter period of time if I'm trying to go the other way. And, I don't know. Once I get past Burns, I'm okay with that. So I don't know. What do you think of Hubbard?
I mean,
Hubbard's
maybe.
gonna hold up?
It's interesting. But it's also interesting talking about the young guy versus the savvy veteran. The savvy veteran, you don't expect to make the same mistakes. You don't expect to have kind of the jumps, the false starts, the things like that, or to be surprised by anything. But a young guy brings a different kind of hunger as well and doesn't necessarily know what he doesn't know. And it's sort of like everything I'm reading right now, I'm really fascinated. The matchup I'm actually fascinated about is flip it the other way. It's the Panthers rookie left tackle out of NC State versus Myles Garrett. And you listen to what he says, and part of it is like, what is he going to say? Is he going to sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm shaking in my boots because I'm facing pro? No, but he's like, I don't have anything to do with, somebody asked him, like, if you had your druthers, would you rather face like kind of a regular defensive end before you face maybe one of the two best in the game? He's like, I don't get to make the schedule. I don't get to plan who I face. Like, all right, throw it at them, basically. And it's kind of like he really doesn't know what he doesn't know, which is almost better.
He'll know it early.
For the record, Aditi, whoever asked that question is an idiot because that's a stupid question to ask a player. And number two, this rookie's going to get his ass kicked by Myles Garrett. Do you agree?
I don't know how much help they can give him. Matt Rule has talked about, the Panthers coach Matt Rule obviously has said, we'll give him a running back, we'll give him a tight end, we'll have him chip, but this is why he's here, because he's supposed to do it one-on-one occasionally. And by the way, let me remind you, if they're sliding a lot of help Myles Garrett's way, then why wouldn't Clowney feast?
Exactly.
Especially Clowney's had maybe the best spring he's ever had, or the best offseason, the best training camp he's ever had. And we keep talking about how happy he seems and what a difference that can just mentally make.
And that's why he's here. I mean, if you decide, it's pick your poison. If you decide that you are going to double or chip and do whatever you can to slow down Myles Garrett, the other side is they've got a monster over there too. And he could end up having a huge day. I think, Aditi, that's in large part why he wanted to come back to Cleveland. His numbers are going to look a whole lot better playing in this defense, playing on the other side of Myles Garrett, than it would somewhere else that doesn't have the quality of a defensive end on the other side. So,
and he made that point when he was first signed last year, Jay. Remember, like people thought, was that a knock on J.J. Watt when he said he's never played with anybody like a Myles Garrett? But I mean, he was on the record saying that, and then he actually lived it. And the two of them, not just are so wonderful on the field as complements to each other, as supplements to each other, but they really get along very well and enjoy playing with each other. So I think that there's something to that as well. And this Panthers line, look, the Panthers went and tried to shore up their offensive line in the offseason, but they've got some questions too. I don't know yet if Bradley Bozeman, who we all know from Ravensland, is going to be able to play at center. I don't know what that necessarily means. I mean, they have some new pieces on that line, and Have you guys talked about the Baker Mayfield shirt yet? Did I miss that whole conversation?
we talked about that
I was just going to get to that, Aditi. Now, I will say this.
I'm like, I want a piece of that conversation,
all right,
G.
well,
Come on.
Well, here we go. Well, that shirt, actually, I don't really have a problem with the shirt. It talks about him being unleashed. Let me ask you this question. Will he be unleashed in what the Panthers are going to run offensively? You go back to Oklahoma and shotgun a lot. He was spread out, not too much play action. And Baker, in his mind feels like that's the best way he plays the game. Do you feel like he's going to be unleashed in his offense, or are you going to see more of the same, play action, boot type stuff, conservative play calling from Matt Rule and the Panthers?
So let's not forget that ostensibly the Panthers' best offensive player is Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, DJ Moore is a very fine player, but Christian McCaffrey is their best player. So why would you not use your best player? And they went and got themselves, again, using the term shored up that running back room to give McCaffrey some help. And I think that we've seen that Baker, as much as he may have an idea in his head of where he's best, where he has been best in the National Football League against National Football League defenses, is in that play action pass game. 100%. I read off the leash more as like hey, I'm off the leash, I'm off the dog pound, I'm out of there. I think that's why you see the collar.
Yeah.
The
it's not a deep metaphor.
Collar. Yeah, I'm
really
not seeing it as, hey, my game is unleashed. But again, I haven't had my meetings yet down there, so maybe there's more for me to learn. I don't think that what we've seen thus far, though, is a backyard, schoolyard type of football where Baker gets to do whatever the heck Baker wants to do.
How do you feel about him releasing that T-shirt, though?
I can't get over, it is Baker, and that is who his personality is, and he has that edge, and we've talked about this. We talked about it last week, how people within the Panthers organization have told me how much they like that edge, but oh my goodness, why would you welcome an even bigger target on you?
Because that's who you said it, that's who he had. He's such a phony because the day before he's throwing Cynthia Freeland under the bus saying he didn't say what he said. And he's like, you all want me to say it because you all hate me, even though half the media kisses his ass all the time. Mm-hmm. And then the day later he's hyping up this shirt. He's a free. I don't care about. I think the shirt's funny, but I think it's ironic. He's just such a phony. Because the day before, he's like, I'm not saying anything controversial.
What's funny is a member of the Panthers organization sent me the screen grab of his Instagram post. And, underneath it says, liked by such and such and a million people. Mm-hmm. The name on the screen grab that I was sent was liked by Deshaun Watson and gazillion people.
Oh, that is so layered. That is so layered.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah,
There's a whole lot.
It really
but
is.
Aditi, to Bull's point, Bull, you're saying that he's a phony, but this is exactly who he is. He's manufacturing.
Let me say he's a liar, not a phony.
Okay,
because he threw Cynthia Freeland under the bus. Mary Kay reported something about him over the winter. He called her a liar. She was 100% true. He does that all the time, and he's making it seem like everybody's out to get him.
And that's what he does.
The case.
That's why he's not a phony. He's being genuine to who he is. He is creating drama. He is creating a reason for him to be the underdog, to make the chip on his shoulder even bigger than it already is.
Yeah, but you don't make yourself an underdog by making a promotional shirt talking about how essentially suggesting that you're going to beat your old team in the first game. You don't get underdog status.
He wants it both ways. He intensified the glare of the spotlight, and that's what he wants.
But he wants it both ways. He wants to be like, I don't know where all this is coming from. No animosity here. It's just another game. And then he's like, but buy these T-shirts where I'm making fun of my old team.
Yeah.
They're all
overcharging.
And how much money could he possibly be making on it for this to be worth?
No, this was for the exhale. That's why he did this. It wasn't a money grab. He
This
doesn't
is
need
for
the money.
showman nature. I mean, Jay, I was on the radio yesterday here in Pittsburgh, and we were kind of talking about, the way that CBS or the way any network just designates its games, right?
Sure.
And so, for my purposes, we're talking about me and what crew I'm a part of for week 1 and week 2. And, there is the A crew. That is Tony Romo and Jim Nantz and Tracy Wolfson. And there is the B crew. And that's Ian Eagle and Charles Davis and Evan Washburn. And the radio host I was on with said, I really don't believe that the Panthers-Browns is the 5th or 6th or 7th game. He's like, if you think about storylines and you think about juiciness, isn't that the juiciest game in the NFL?
Without question. Without question, I couldn't agree more with you. But, your reaction, it's so funny. It was mine. Do you know when things like this have happened to all of us? When you left the NFL Network, when I left ESPN, I had a million friends of mine tell me, dude, you know what you should do? You should tweet out this. And it's funny, and everyone laughs, and I'm like, yeah, but I would never do that. Baker did it. Baker just said, yep, I co-signed this T-shirt. Let's get this thing out there. It's a great idea. I think his biggest problem so far in his career, and it will probably be his biggest problem moving forward, because I don't see any signs that he's willing to divorce himself of that. He's surrounded himself with bad idea people. I firmly believe that. And I know you probably know some of them, but some of them.
I mean, I texted somebody yesterday to say, who is advising Baker Mayfield?
Yes. I mean, it's stunning.
Goal number one, right? If goal number one this season is to show that he is indeed grown up, that he is indeed a mature professional leader of a football team, that he can indeed bottle that fieriness to create a consistency every single week, that he is somebody you want to be the face of your franchise.
Yes.
Then, okay, yes, this is what you need maybe to get yourself going. Come on, haven't we all? Jay, at some point, I'm sure something great happened after ESPN where you were like, hi, ESPN. I mean, I know that I got my assignment for week 1 where I'm a sideline reporter on CBS. There was a moment that I said to my agent, hi, my old boss, sure, it's the nature of the game, but those are private moments. That's not like, hey, everybody, let's throw it out there. And that's the piece about Baker is that why does he need people talking about him? Why does he need people publicly doubting his moves or doubting his personality to get up? Why not just be up? Why is
probably
the
a
challenge
complicated relationship with his father.
Big deal.
Aditi, I don't think people say mature and do different things. I don't think he can do anything else. That's
who he is.
That's his DNA. Sometimes he rode that horse as long as he could. He's thinking to himself, I'm undersized. I may not be the greatest of all time. I might not be the best quarterback, but what I have is this mentality that I am the best. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to go out on a limb and say whatever I feel like it, because that's what got me to where I'm at. I won the Heisman doing it. I ain't even supposed to be the number 1 pick. I got to be the number 1 pick doing it. I don't know any other way to do it.
It's worked for him.
That's him. It's worked.
But Aditi, you're right. I think the goal was to fly under the radar, and to me,
and he had for a lot of the
he was doing okay, and then he just blew up the radar with the T-shirt McNuggets. Is Jay Feely on?
That's what's so crazy, Jay, because the whole thing with Cynthia Freeland sharing what was ostensibly a private exchange, it was so jarring because we hadn't heard or seen anything of even that nature or that tone. Yeah. And you almost felt for Baker a little bit that he's been very careful, that he's been very contained, that he's made sure that hasn't gotten out there. And then with no malicious intention by Cynthia, this thing kind of all of a sudden it's like Baker is Baker. But then the next day he shows us
buy my spite merch.
Nothing to do with bad luck. Baker is Baker.
Yeah, exactly.
He was just sad that he didn't.
The horse is out of the barn, so screw it. Here's my T-shirt.
Right. No, those T-shirts were not made in one day, Jay.
No, I know. Hey, you're one of your broadcast partner for Sunday's game, Jay Feely, is on with us right now. Jay, of course, a longtime kicker in the NFL and a longtime co-worker of mine and friend of mine. Jay, it's great to see you again. You're sharing the screen with Aditi, just like you will be on Sunday.
Jay, I gotta correct you though. I think we're the A team, just personally.
Yeah, our crew. Yeah, no, we don't need Tony Romo.
That's right. Tony Romo's annoying. Let's all admit it right now.
Come on, you're putting him in a tough spot.
He gets paid. I'm saying it. He's paid too much.
Our producer is a guy named Jason Ross. And the very first time I talked to Jason Ross, the very first conversation he had with me was telling me how great Spiro Dides and Jay Feely are and how tremendous they are. And he doesn't understand why they don't do 17 games a year or 18 games. And he said, it's going to be hard for you to break in because the two of them just have outstanding chemistry and have such useful things to say.
Jason's right. They are. They're great. They're underrated.
Jason agrees with Jay. I'll say that.
There's a big arrow next to both of their names and yours too, Aditi. Jay, when you think of this matchup, I know that in the past you've always been the special teams guy because that was your world. But you're as a color analyst, when you look at this football game, how do you break it down? What's going to win this game ultimately?
Well, Jay, I love this game. I can't wait. And like you guys said, the storylines are just so many, and it's so juicy. And you start looking into this game and you're breaking it down. You say, okay, where did Baker struggle last year outside of the injury? And you look at how Stefanski called games, his lack of 12 personnel that he used so effectively the year before. And you say, okay, how is his McAdoo going to use him now? And what is he going to do to allow Baker to try to be his best? And then when I look at this Browns team, I think they're a really, really good team, outside of a couple of factors. Obviously with Deshaun Watson not being there for 11 games and Jacoby Brissett. The irony is that I did Jacoby's first start with the Patriots. I did his first start with the Colts. We did his game last year with the Dolphins, and we're doing this game. So I've been the Jacoby Brissett fan club here, calling games up in the booth. I think they can win with him. I really do. And you look at their schedule, the first 4 games, it's the easiest schedule in the NFL. It's all 4 winnable games, and they have to get out to a fast start because the end of the schedule is so tough. And you're just trying to look through those first 11 games and say, okay, what can we do to stay maybe above 500 through those first 11 games and keep ourselves in the playoff hunt? And obviously you got to rely on that offensive line as well as the running game. And that's where Jacoby is effective. When he is able to use play action, he can use his legs, and you can roll him out, and you're running the ball effectively. That's when he can be at his best. And this is a team that I think has the best defense, in the league. I really do. I think the Browns, when you look at the combination of that secondary, and you combine that with the edge players and being able to get off the edge with Myles Garrett, Clowney, and what they can do, maybe Wright, this rookie, who they're high on. I think it's a defense that can be really scary and really good, and I think they're going to continue to get better because they got so much depth in that secondary to go along with that pass rush.
Let me ask you both this question.
Wait. Adam,
ahead,
I've got a
yeah.
question first for Jay. Jay, so what's Jacoby's record in those games that you've called?
Oh, yeah. Good question.
Let me see it. I have to think about it. He won the Patriots game. I don't think they won the Colts game, and they won the Dolphins game. So he's 2-1.
2-1.
All right.
The Jay Feely factor, baby.
There you go. So let me ask you this, both. Obviously, he's a quarterback. His strength is he doesn't turn the ball over. He manages the offense. The Browns have a great running game. I said before, I want to see them run 65% of the time. I know it's crazy. It's kind of unheard of in this NFL. But when you've got 2 of the 5, in my opinion, 5 best running backs in the league, I think you do it. I want to see Chubb and Hunt get 40 touches between them. Is that crazy? Is that going too far for both of you?
Well, you have to have balance, and you have to be able to keep a defense from knowing what you're doing. But you do have to rely on them. And when you're getting, 5-6 yards a carry, I mean, you look at Chubb, over 5 yards a carry in his career, it's just spectacular. When you look at the big runs, when you look at the home runs, the big hits, and how they're able to get explosive plays, I mean, that's all you really care about as an offensive play caller is how do we create explosive plays and protect the ball carrier, and I think when you rely on those running backs, you're going to do that. And obviously your weakness is your depth and your wide receiver position, outside of Amari Cooper, and I'm a Michigan guy, so I like Donovan Peoples-Jones a lot, and he's developing and coming along, but after that, there's a lot of uncertainty on that team.
Aditi, how about you? Am I going too crazy?
But
with the
no.
run game?
I agree with Jay on the bat. Why do you go sign Amari Cooper if you don't think that you can occasionally take advantage of that? You do have to keep that defense honest to some degree. Now, I don't know if Anthony Schwartz is going to stretch the field. I think the next ball he catches, maybe the first great catch that I see, but he's due. He is due after that last preseason game. And I know that this isn't palatable to Jay, but that young man out of Purdue, David Bell, he catches everything and is very impressive. And so I could see them using him in the slot a little bit. Again, I think Adam 40 is a bit high. You want to see how the game goes. I think that you do need to keep that defense honest.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised
touches,
if you see him go deep to Amari Cooper early.
40
nice
touches,
little
I'm going to throw to Hunt.
I mean, you can do that. Yeah, true. But I'd love to see Amari Cooper go shake somebody out of his shoes with one of his patented double moves and get them going a little bit. That's the best way almost to get the run game going is by putting that defense on its heels a little bit, sending a message early.
Aditi, I'm horrified that this offense is going to come out slow, the Browns, as they tend to do, especially in first games. And these guys haven't played together. Most of them literally haven't even been on the field together yet in anything, even in preseason games. Do you think that's a legitimate concern, or am I just worrying over nothing?
I mean, I think Browns fans worry over nothing as a rule, as a habit, and I do think B.
Definitely true. Come on, Aditi.
I think B, it's legitimate, it's fair, because what have you really seen? But again, remember, preseason games are all vanilla. You're not really necessarily seeing anything, and again. You've got a healthy quarterback who doesn't make a lot of mistakes, who doesn't need to manufacture a chip to get up for a game. You've got arguably one of the best offensive lines in the game, no matter who is playing at right tackle. You've got two outstanding running backs, as Adam just said, who can carry a load if necessary. You also added a number one receiver who is absolutely the personality that this team needs at number one receiver and is consistent in a way that you haven't really had in a number one receiver for a long time. And you have two tight ends. You just added a third one, by the way. How about Jesse James? Hey, Jay Feely, by the way, Jesse James caught that ball against the Patriots. It was a catch. You just added the third tight end. They're going to get more out of that tight end room than they got a year ago.
Yeah.
And Aditi, that plays to Jacoby's strengths. He's not a guy that, you want to try to throw the ball 20, 30 yards down the field continually. You want to play action. You want to utilize his legs. You want to allow Amari Cooper to show off that route running that's so spectacular and allow him to take advantage of knowing where to go with the ball and throwing those short passes and allowing guys like Kareem Hunt and Amari Cooper and Njoku and allow them to get the ball and use their legs and make plays. And I think that's what their game plan is going to be. They're going to try to come out. They may come out a little slow, because they're trying to protect Jacoby Brissett, not put him in situations that are difficult for him early on. But I think this is an offense that can be effective.
Jay, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Cade York. That's your wheelhouse. I love the kid. When they drafted him, I said he's going to be the memorable pick in this entire draft. I've been mocked by my panel. It's been horrible. They treat me. You can't believe how they treat me. They treat me worse than Skip Bayless used to treat us.
Let's not get nuts.
Well, it's pretty close. I love the kid, and I know it's practice, and everybody wants to say, well, okay, so he hit a 70-yarder in pregame last week. Look, before you can, it's like in golf. You can't make the putt if the putt doesn't get to the hole. I love this kid's leg. He's made pressure kicks. He kicked at a big school. If you're giving him a grade from 1 to 100, where are you on Cade York right now?
Well, Jay, it's incomplete because it doesn't matter what you did in practice.
No, based on what you've seen in college.
It's what you do in games.
You've seen in college.
Yeah, this is a guy who kicked 3 years at LSU and kicked really well and had a career long of 57 yards, has a big leg, and you need a guy like that. And if you feel like Mike Prefer knows kickers, and I played for Mike Prefer, I got a lot of respect for him and who he is, his knowledge of the game, and he was really excited to be able to go and get this young man and to be able to come in and stabilize that position hopefully for a long time. You think back to Phil Dawson and the struggles that Cleveland has had, but how good he was consistently there. It's a difficult place to kick in Cleveland, game in and game out, when you're kicking on the grass and you have the wind and you have the cold later in the season. So it's going to be a challenge for him, but if he can stabilize that position, that's an asset, especially for a team that figures to play a lot of close ball games, trying to win games, at the end of a game. You need a guy who can go in there and make those kicks.
Aditi, before we say goodbye, Jay took Cade York in the 6th round of his fantasy draft.
That's not true.
6th
No,
round.
I did not.
Oh, my God.
No, but
Hey, a kicker matters. I'll tell you, I was in the finals last year, and my kicker was the difference between my winning and losing.
They do matter, but Brad Sellers in our fantasy draft for the show took him in the 5th round.
It was the worst fantasy pick ever.
I did take Cade York, but I got him with the very last pick, 17th round.
Thanks, Aditi.
Aditi, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Jay, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Jay, the 7